Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited to be here with you all today because we're just going to talk about a new format that I've been thinking about for a couple of panels, my experiences, and tweaking things as I go, and trying to come up with interesting ways to engage people. But yeah, I'm just gonna get started. I know I didn't hit record on my video when I was explaining this, so I hope it's not too much of a big deal that it's gonna be mostly just a lot of the screen recording. But yeah, I hope everyone really likes this video. Let's just get to it. Hey everyone, so I thought it'd be kind of cool to sit down and go over how I plan to do my panel sessions this year. It's a little bit of a different format, and I think it's going to go off really well because it does lend itself to sort of this podcast style where we have a guest speaker and we're answering listener submitted questions. And I think that kind of style lends itself to more conversations, and so hopefully you think that this is a good kind of or interesting way of going about panel sessions, and just showing you a little bit of what I'm going over a little bit of how I've been working on things and what I've been up to, going over going over what I've been up to these days. I thought it would be really interesting so for starters, for this panel session, we come up with a topic, and I thought, like every other panel session or any other session, you kind of ask for introductions. I thought it'd be interesting to not only ask for introductions, go around the room or the session for introductions, but also introduce an icebreaker question. And so icebreaker questions are kind of nice because they give you a little bit more about a person than what their bio or what their normal spiel about themselves would normally be. And so I decided to include this icebreaker question on what is the best professional development book you've ever read. But, there are a lot of icebreaker questions like, what is your favorite quote? Or what is the best advice that you've ever had? Or if you were, stuck on an island, what would you have? What item would you have or bring with you? So, there's a lot of icebreaker questions. I think this one is not as fun as some of the other ones, but again, like for a more serious session, you may want to stick with this tone of question. So that's just something that I was thinking about, and I think a lot of people would enjoy this more, open-ended question on top of an introduction. And then I go into the panel questions, the actual panel questions. And the way I've set it up is it's scenario based. So this first question is about someone who identifies as a technology generalist. They hop from one tech stack to another, and they've never maybe specifically spent a lot of time or gained a lot of mastery in one area. So I asked this question about, what is it like? What has it been like being a technology generalist if you are one? And maybe if you're not one, you can answer this kind of second tier question around the skills that you've built by being a generalist, or that you've built over time in your career that's had a significant impact. So maybe because you weren't 100% focused on software development or software engineering, that maybe you did product or project management, and that's had a significant impact on your career. So kind of getting at that angle of, I may be doing different things within technology. I may be doing different things in my career. But how does it kind of all come together, and how have you seen that? And, what is your advice? And so this is kind of the first question. I'm not sure about the order, honestly. I'm gonna play with it a little bit more. But again, like, all the questions are in this style, and so in the second panel question I have, it's about someone who is maybe an introvert, or maybe they're in a team that's growing really quickly and they feel like they're losing their voice, or they're not necessarily the most confident person in the room because maybe there's someone else in the room that's speaking for them. This question is around how have you developed your communication style and sort of your confidence in a large room setting or in a larger team setting. So it's an interesting one. I think a lot of people fall into this pit hole sometimes when they're starting out, and I think it's something that maybe early adults have an issue with, or maybe not. It's just a speculation, but I think a number of people can relate to this question. And that's what I came up with. Again, like I wanted to have listener submitted questions, but that's, again, like that's, I think, a privilege that people with a lot of connections or maybe communications or even just responses have, and we weren't getting that in a lot of our invitations. So, I try to cower through my experiences and also what I've heard other people have issues with, and so I that's how I fit these into this type of question. And you can notice that there's a little bit of a pattern here where there's maybe some of the questions are a little bit longer and more scenario based. So this panel question is about mentorship and advocacy, and right, I think there's a difference between someone who's willing to sponsor or speak up in a room for your work and advocate for your work versus someone who's more of a mentor or more of a guide to you. And so these two different roles can be one person, or it can not be. But I think a lot of underrepresented groups traditionally don't have as many opportunities to find a mentor, or maybe they get a mentor later in their life versus someone who maybe was kind of had all of the right things set up for them and had a lot more care and attention to their career versus maybe somebody else who's been neglected. So the question is around advocating for your work performance and standing out, right? Getting that compensation adjustment, getting that promotion. And so this is kind of my question around for women in leadership in particular, right? Because you don't start out in leadership, and someone has to advocate for your work, and I'm curious what their perspective is on this topic. And then the last seated question that I have is just around team culture and speaking up for other people, and also creating being someone who creates a team culture where you are happy to come into work every day, and other people are too, not just yourself. And so these are just like a round of seated questions for this 45-minute session. We may not get to all of the questions, and I think I'm going to add another slide in here that just says we're going to open it up to Q&A. Anyone can ask anything. This time is yours. And I think like that's kind of how I'm going to go about a lot of my panel sessions this year. I'll update this video with what I find out and how it goes. Maybe I'll make some adjustments here and there. But I think it's going to be a different type of panel, and one with more intention. And so I hope it goes well. But yeah, everyone, I hope you're doing really well. I know that this channel has not always been the most consistent, and eventually it'll be about consistency, but I think for the next couple of months I'm going to be here and there trying different things, kind of just expanding and figuring out what I want this channel to be about. But if you want to stick with me and grow with me throughout this process, I'm more than happy to take any suggestions. I think the next video is going to be about how to read a research paper and how research papers are structured. And so hopefully that can be really helpful for some people who are maybe in a situation where they have to read a lot of research papers or are going to be reading research papers. I think academics is a really interesting area that we can focus on next. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. I'll see you next time.